All right, everybody. So thank you first off. I just want to thank you very much for the Arch is easy to install video. I just the amount of reception to that just warms my heart. That's fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead. I saw some criticisms that are very valid. We're gonna go ahead and address those, and we're gonna re-record that. But for today, have you ever thought about what would happen if you had all the power of Arch, but a little bit more simple than Arch being simple to install already? Let's take a look at that. So what we have here is called CachyOS. Well, not here. This is Windows, but we're gonna go ahead and download CachyOS. So let's go ahead and start with that installation process here. First thing that we need to do is to go to Cachy. I was looking for wallpapers. CachyOS.org. There we go. Brilliantly fast and customizable Linux distribution. Now, I've been using this for a couple of days, and I'm rather impressed with its just overall capabilities. It does just fine. I haven't had any crashes. I usually don't have crashes with systems, but if you're wanting to do an Arch-based Linux distribution and you don't really want to have to worry about too much, CachyOS seems to be relatively stable. It's definitely something to play with. They have one of the biggest benefits, I think, at least in my opinion, is they have their own Linux kernel. So it's a Linux CachyOS kernel itself instead of just being the standard Linux kernel or LTS or hardened, things like that. And I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't noticed any problems with frame rates or any of my editing process. I actually edited the Arch Linux video in the CachyOS because I've been playing with it while I had been doing the Arch video. The audio issue that I have, for those of you that said that the music was too loud, that's the lowest Kden Live would let me take it. So I'm gonna have to just do that in DaVinci Resolve. And this way I have a little bit more control over that. But we're gonna go to downloads here at the top, right? And then desktop edition. I am a massive fan of doing it through torrents. I believe it's faster. Had some complaints with that, so we're just going to go ahead and do a direct download. CachyOS, though, the repository or the hosting is rather quick when it comes to that. We're going to go to our web browser again, and we're going to go ahead and grab Rufus, rufus.ie. And we're going to download Rufus. We're going to scroll down here to the bottom through all of the advertisements, and we're going to look for this standard Windows 64 edition here. Click that. All right, so we have CachyOS and we have Rufus. That's pretty much all we need. I mean, minus a USB drive. Now, one of the things that I'm going to focus on in this particular video is we have a dual boot system. In this situation, the way that I run a dual boot system, because I do run Windows 10 for being able to play Fortnite with my wife. That's the only reason why that exists, aside from also doing these videos because my capture card isn't compatible with Linux. Oh God, oh, you need to work on that, bud. So I have to run both distributions, or both distributions. I guess Windows is its own distribution. So anyways, I'm rambling. So we're going to run both of them, but on separate drives. And the reason why we're going to do both of them on separate drives is because Windows will actually break the bootloader for grub and overwrite. I hear that it doesn't have that issue. I tested that about 6 months ago, where like it won't be able to screw it. I still wound up not being able to access my Linux install and having to go in and do a super grub boot. We're just going to install two separate drives. This way, if there's ever an issue, we can just go ahead and load up directly into a selected drive, just like we do with booting into a USB. All right, so we're going to go down here to File Explorer. We're going to go to Downloads. We're going to double click on Rufus. Click Yes. No, we don't want it to search online. All right, here we go. This is the beloved options here. We have our USB drive for this is how I installed Windows on this system. And then we should also have another USB drive. Let me figure out what's going on. All right, no idea why Windows isn't wanting to see the other disk, but that's perfectly fine. This is the one that we want to use. This is my install USB. I always recommend keeping an install USB of whichever operating system you're currently running. So this way, if there's ever an issue, a lot of times there's recovery tools in those. Alrighty, so we're gonna go to boot selection, disk or ISO image, right? That needs to stay checked. We don't want to play with FreeDOS or MS-DOS. We're gonna go ahead and select and grab our CachyOS ISO. Now an ISO is just a disk image. So similar to back in the day, we used to have these little, round spinning, silvery type puck things. Some of us use them for coasters if they came with AOL. And that's just going to take that image and it's going to then put that image onto a USB drive. So this way we can boot to it. Doesn't matter what the name of the volume is. Don't change any of this information here. And it says that it's ready to start. So we're going to go ahead and click start. Right in ISO image mode. That's what's recommended. There's a whole hybrid OS and all that. So just go for that and then click yes. If that dialog box comes up, and then it's going to tell us that it's going to delete all of the data on this drive. We're going to click OK. That means everything that's on there is going to be gone. So if you had needed it, no more there. All right, let's see. Then while we're waiting for that to run through, we're going to go over here to disk, manage, and it's going to have create and format a drive. So this right here is our Windows install. If we go to properties here, and then we take a look at the details. Oh wait, nope, it's still in general there. So WDC PCSN 730. Whatever's in this section here, you're going to want to write down if you're not too familiar when it comes to how this works. If you're just now getting into it, this is information that you're going to need to know. If you're, been around the block a little bit, but you never actually you always struggled with it, identifying what drive you're installing to, this right here, this is what you're looking for. You're going to be looking for the name of the drive. You're also going to pay attention to how much storage space is on that drive. This is going to be the installation where we put, or the disk where we put our Linux install, right? So we're not going to touch this Windows disk. This is our Linux install. And this has got the Samsung, all of that, right? I just know one of them is a Western Digital. The other one's a Samsung drive. I'm going to be looking for some of that information. Also, one of them is a 500 gig drive. The other one is a terabyte drive. So just a little bit of information there. So this way you kind of know how to identify your drives, at least more easily. All right, we'll be back when this ISO is done burning. All right, and that's it. It's done. It's ready. We can go ahead and install CachyOS and take a look at it, because this is a pretty cool system, actually. So let's go ahead and click close. We're going to close out of here. And then this is one of the things that I find as a very valuable piece of information to know, especially for just people that plan on staying on Windows, but you want to be able to boot into other operating systems easily. You can also do this inside of Linux. Maybe I'll cover that in a future video. But we're going to go over here to start. We're going to click on the power option, and we're going to hover over restart. We're going to take our finger, and we're going to hold down on that shift key, on the left shift key, click restart. Now this is going to run through a little bit of a please wait. Your finger can hold up. Don't worry. You'll make it. You can survive. This is just a battle, not the entire war. You can make it through it. You have the endurance from years of gaming and holding down WASD, not all at the same time. Alrighty, so here we are. We're going to use a device. And then in this situation, I'm using a different drive than I usually do. We have UEFI removable device. This might actually be the first time on camera that it actually works like it does when I'm not recording. We're going to go ahead and click on that. While we wait for this to go ahead and load, I'm also going to have right up here, depending on what your common motherboard options are, what buttons to press to get into boot device, or device boot, or whatever name your manufacturer went with. It just allows you to select which device to boot to, be it a USB drive or your main disks. Alrighty, so it decided to be a pain in my butt, but regardless, here we go. It wasn't the time that it was going to cooperate with me. That's fine. Alrighty, so once it boots, you'll be here with these options. I still have no idea why it comes through green. If anybody in the comments happens to know why the Elgato HD60 Pro decides to do green, that'd be fantastic. So we've got a couple of options here. We've got CachyOS, CachyOS with NVIDIA open source module, Cachy legacy hardware, the regular mem test, UEFI shell, reboot, restart, all that fun jazz, or reboot, shutdown. In my situation, I have a AMD household. So I don't have the NVIDIA cards to be able to do these tests. But from what I understand from other people, it works fantastic and loads everything how it should, like any Linux distribution says. So if you have an NVIDIA card, what I'm saying, select this. It's different than when we're in the Arch world where we have to go through and whatnot, select those which drivers we're going to be using. This one just has it pre-built into the environment that you load into for the install, and it loads those drivers. We're going to go ahead and click CachyOS, and then we're going to wait. This portion is very similar to the whole booting into an Arch Linux ISO. So it's going to do the whole wait for 10 seconds while it grabs, the drive, and then it's going to go through the whole process of creating the RAM disk to load everything into, which is what it's doing here. It's a relatively quick process. But we'll go ahead. It's pretty self-explanatory. Once we're booted into the live environment, we'll continue on from there. And now, just as easy and simple as that, we are greeted with this wonderful world of infinite darkness and a mouse cursor. CachyOS does, with the installer, take a little bit of time for some things to load, and it can feel like it might not be working. Just hang in there. It does take a little bit of time, but eventually we're greeted with this. Now, we're going to see this mouse cooperate. We're going to see this launch screen here. There's nothing really super special. You have like the QT menu and all of that that's here, like the Cachy browser, which we can go into later. This is just Firefox. But the live environment really doesn't have much that, to really write home about. Some distributions have a lot in them. But Cachy, still very much so like Linux or like Arch, is very bare bones for the most part. We're going to go ahead here and click Launch Installer. Now, there's going to be potentially a little bit of an issue I ran into during the 2 install processes that I've done, where we get to this bootloader selection here. So I have no idea what Limine is. I haven't actually used this, but this is, if you remember from any previous videos, the systemd and grub. These are our bootloaders. This is what you can select if you have like a Windows and Linux environment, or you have different Linux environments, different boot options. It's literally in the name bootloader. But grub is a little bit of an older one. Systemd is a little bit newer one. But then we have refined and AI SDK refined. These are specifically going to be for having multiple instances with like this kind of GUI environment, and I haven't had a chance to play with it, but that's my understanding. Once I have a chance to really play with this, I'll do some videos on that. We're gonna go with what we're familiar with though, and that systemd boot. Now we've clicked that. You would think that something would happen, but a lot of times, oh wow, it didn't. Okay, a lot of the times it was crashing on me, and I've noticed that other content creators that have talked about CachyOS also had a situation where it crashed on you. If for some reason it crashes on you, just click Launch Installer again and select your bootloader. All right. So it nailed where I'm located is the Eastern time zone. This is where we get to the point where it's important. This is our main Windows drive. We want to dual boot onto separate disks. We're going to go ahead and make sure that we're on that separate disk. In my situation, mine is Samsung, and we can go ahead and erase disk. This is where we have an option on which type of file system we have. We have ButterFS or BTRFS. We have XFS, ext4, F2FS. I always get stuck with that. ZFS and BCA Chefs. Anyways, I've actually never played with that one. I saw that during my install, and I really honestly need to remember to take a look into it. Anyways, ext4 is the most common one. That's what most people use. These things are more so towards kind of server environments. I'll have to research into that one. That's some type of cache. Is that, does Cache have their own? Okay. Anyways, ButterFS or BTRFS has a lot of stuff installed for doing backups and setting up a system to where it can kind of be a little bit more easily recovered. We're going to go with ext4 because that's what most of us, are going to be used to. And we can go into BTRFS. I'm running BTRFS on my system so I can play with it because I've never played with that type of stuff. Either direction you go, BTRFS or ext4, you can't go wrong. This will delete. I don't know why it says it like that. It said that in my install too. Delete all data currently present on the selected storage device. If you have anything of value or importance, this is the time that you should have already backed it up. If not, go back to Windows, back things up onto a USB drive, and get yourself corrected. It's the only warning you're going to get there. All right. Now, this is the fun part when it comes to CachyOS. If you remember from the Arch Linux install, I had a whole segment where I kind of talked about different environments, right? Different desktop environments. Plasma is what we're going to be going with today because I'm just a fan of Plasma. But just like in Arch Linux, in CachyOS, you can select all of the more common popular options. If you want to play with a tiling window manager, then you have things like Wayland or can't remember, or Hyperland. Yeah, it's a Wayfire that does it. Who is the one that was the common one? I haven't played with them yet. Anyways, I'm digressing here. You have Plasma or XFCE4. These are my two favorite ones, especially if you're moving from being on a Windows environment to a Linux environment. These two are going to be more similar to how Microsoft Windows functions, right? So we're going to go with Plasma because I'm a massive fan of the KDE environment. We're going to click next. Here is where you have some additional packages. If you want to add printer support for like HP or standard printers, you can go ahead and add those. They're kind of irrelevant to this install because this is used purely for demonstration purposes. And then we're going to go to user. We're going to do, this is where it's slightly different from Arch Linux. You can actually put a capital letter here. It will change your user profile to a lowercase, but this will actually say your capitalization in your name inside the environment. So, and then CachyOS for the name of the computer, change this to whatever you want. So this way you can locate and communicate with it a little bit easier, or like recognize it a little bit easier in a network configuration. And then use the same password for administrative account. We have to put a password in. Automatically log in. There we go. And we're just going to do our normal 1, 2, 3, 4. It says that it's good to go. And we're going to click next. And then we're going to go ahead and click install. And install now. And this is going to talk about a lot of different cool little features. You should go ahead while you're doing the installation process. Go ahead and read things that exist here. You can click through them. and we'll go into some of this stuff probably in later videos, especially with things like Bohr scheduler and stuff like that. The at the end of these videos, like I end it and I leave you, but we're going to be going back into things. We'll start with Linux Mint and kind of show using that environment and daily driving with that system, and kind of cover a little bit more of things that might be relevant to people that tend to like those types of environments. These are just kind of getting you started and then giving you some time to probably play with it yourself a little bit, and then we'll go back and revisit them in order. I have two more environments or distros that I want to play with, and then we'll be moving back and going through things like starting with Linux Mint and then going into Bazzite and standard vanilla Arch, and then this one's going to be CachyOS. The next one's going to be PopOS, and just kind of playing with those and kind of seeing the features that each one of those environments themselves provide to the end user. One cool thing that I want to show real quick is it actually shows you all of the timestamps and what it's doing throughout the installation process. If you want to, stare at that instead, you're more than welcome to. It's a little button on the toggle on the side there. We'll be back as soon as this is done. We'll get Steam installed, which if you notice, we didn't have to do anything when it comes to multi-library. Multi-lib isn't necessary. It's already, enabled on this system. We have all of the value and power of having access to the R and all of those things that Arch Linux provides, but in this nice, even simpler installer with CachyOS. All right, and that's it. All done. That's it. Click restart now as your option, unless you want to play with it. There's not much to play with here. We want to actually get into our system, and click done. And then it's going to go through and do the system restart, showing all that wonderful hacker script. I'm making a joke with that just in case people don't understand. It's not hacker script. It's just showing what it's doing, what it's booting, turning off, and all of that. All right. And then it should boot us directly into CachyOS. But I'm going to go ahead and spam my boot menu button, which we'll have up here, up top, which one, which one's the boot menu key, potentially for your system, depending on which motherboard you have. Alrighty. So we're going to click this Linux boot manager, Samsung. All right. Now, Linux CachyOS. This is the kernel. So CachyOS has their own kernel that has some custom modifications, just to make it a little bit more performant towards the direction that the developers of CachyOS prefer to try to go towards. We also have our fallback kernel. All right, Linux CachyOS. Boom. Now it's going to go through, trigger all of that wonderful, there we go. And then we have this wonderful little splash screen that has the manufacturer of the motherboard and then CachyOS at the bottom. They put a lot of good work into this system. All right. So here we are. We're going to ignore this. You can play with this if you want in the future. I'm not going to click uncheck auto start. If you're not interested in it, that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. It automatically has NeoFetch built into this system. So it shows a little bit of information about our system. So we're going to go sudo, because super user do. And that's, that's sudo. So we're asking the super user to do something. Hackman, which is package manager, -S, that's for install. If you want to remove something, you're going to do -R. And we're going to install Steam. Steam. And we're going to install Steam. And unlike with just the base Arch install, this didn't need anything extra done to get to the point where we want to be, which is playing some video games. We're also going to go ahead and do super user do. Now we're in a KDE environment. And one of the things that I think is very valuable at the start is kind of being a little bit more comfortable as you learn how to use the terminal. The terminal comes over time. None of us just fell in love with the terminal. Okay, there are some hard, um, um, tryhards that, really automatically like loved it. It's something that you have to get used to, right? We're moving from a Windows environment, so we're a little bit more used to being able to go to like discord.com. In this situation, we're going to be using something that is kind of more of like a Windows Store kind of environment, something a little bit more kind of search it and then you download the package that you're looking for. So we're going to do sudo pacman -s discover. All right. So we're getting a little bit into the weeds here when it comes to using some of the terminal, but we're also not completely abandoned as we try to kind of get used to things and trying to find stuff that we're familiar with inside of this new operating system. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to sudo pacman -s, and then we're going to install Flatpak, P-A-K. Now, there's a bunch of people that are out there that love Flatpak, and there's people that don't like Flatpak. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Flatpak, but we're trying to get it to where you're a little bit more comfortable with the environment that you're using. So we're going to go with Flatpak, and this is required for that Discover application to properly function. So it's going to run through, get everything that we're needing for that. It's a very quick install. And then once it's finished, we'll be able to go into that Discover application. I'll show you how to pin that application to your taskbar, so this way it's easier to find in the future and you're not trying to remember what the name of that application that Moidy showed you how to install was. So possible missing firmwares, we covered this in another video. These are things that are largely irrelevant to you. I know it might look scary, but I've never had a situation where installing these improved my system either. Alrighty, so 43 seconds for that install. We can go ahead and click a little X there. We're going to go down here to the Cachy application launcher, and we're going to type Discover. Alrighty, we're going to right click that, and we're going to pin to taskbar. All right, now let's go ahead and click Discover. This is our kind of handhold as we get a little bit more accustomed with using Linux. The first thing we're going to do, because we're gamers, is we're going to look up Discord at the top right here, and then we're going to click this little download for install button. The other thing that we're going to want to do is I do not like, so let's show you how to remove things. So sudo superuser do pacman package manager -R Firefox. Firefox burned their bridge with me. I will always remove it from every system I possibly can. So we've gotten rid of Firefox. That's not a thing. We'll go over here and we'll type Chrome. So this is Google Chrome. If you want to have access to Google Chrome, you have that there. But there's also the thing that Chrome is based on is Chromium. And then we have ungoogle Chromium. That's a whole nother thing. We're going to download the Chromium web browser. And that's going to install. And now we have our web browser back. Once that's finished, there we go. And then it should automatically pop up, but sometimes it doesn't right here. We're going to go ahead and look for Chrome. Good Lord. I am just having a day. I am just having a day here. Chrome. Chromium. What the heck? All right. Instead of searching it, we're just going to go over here to internet. Oh, wow. Wait. Did it not install? Chromium. Okay. Launch. Classic, whatever. That's, you make that decision on which one you want there. Okay. Is it peanut butter to us? I'll have to figure out why that's doing that. All right, we're going to click launch, right click. We can't even pin the taskbar. This is the downside to Flatpaks. Flatpaks do like to do this to you. Let's see. Is Discord going to be cooperate with us? All right. This is one of those things where my buddy Flamer Gamer says to have all of the gaffes and the weird things that happen, just put that in the videos, so this way, you know, it just, you know, kind of go with the Linus effect, I guess is what he, you know, would like to say there. Oh, this is for live ISO. If you do wind up leaving your ISO there, let's see. Whoops, click the wrong one. You wind up leaving your USB plugged in. Oh, all of the shenanigans. All the things that are shenanigans. Okay, there we go. There we go. Linux Boot Manager, Samsung, Cachy. And see if doing a reboot helps resolve that. We're just gonna go with the shenanigans here. It's not gonna be an hour-long video, don't worry. Okay. So there we go. Resolved our shenanigans. There we go. Applications, Chromium, awesome. Discord. There we go. Awesome. We have access to our Discord. So then that means that we should have access to our Steam. There we go. Steam's going to download. I always love this. Discord. What did Discord want to do? What was... There we go. Had some type of Java error. All right. So that's going to go ahead and run through its download for Steam. We'll go ahead and get our, you know, normal things set up to where we have or we have like a video game, and we'll go ahead and play the video game. I'll get Mango HUD and all that stuff. Actually, let's go ahead. Let's talk about Mango HUD. So sudo super user do pacman -s Mango HUD. Our password is 1234. Yes. For installing the packages, we're gonna go ahead and get Mango HUD put there. So this way, and I'll show how to enable that. This way you can see the performance of the actual game and the FPS counter and CPU usage, stuff like that. That's gonna be a valuable resource. Okay, so real quick, we're gonna go in now that we have Steam here. Before we install a game, we're gonna go ahead to Steam at the top left, go to settings, and then we're gonna find compatibility. Make sure that we go ahead and check that, and then click restart for Steam. Steam will restart. You don't have to reopen it. It'll, once everything's set, it'll load. And what that's going to provide you is the Proton compatibility layer, which is what makes gaming on Linux possible. That's what the Steam Deck runs off of. That's what all of the Linux and, you know, computer systems that play video games run off of. It takes it from being where it says for like your game that it's let's find Lethal Company. We'll go with that. Instead of saying, you know, Windows only, it actually says that you can install, makes it possible to play that game. So I'm going to find a game that we can go ahead and play, and then we'll jump right into it. Okay, so we've got this. It's ready to play. We're going to right click on Subnautica here, properties, and then launch options. We're going to do Mango HUD. I accidentally paused the video. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do Mango HUD. I was on the wrong keyboard. %, command, %. And that's going to give us the ability to have that overlaid on our game. And then we're going to go ahead and click play. I'm going to figure out what my wife needed. Okay, good. All right. So it's going to download a few additional things. These are going to be just kind of Steam runtime environments and like patches for the game. It's nothing super crazy here. It's downloading, yeah, Proton. Here we go. Steam Linux Runtime 2.0. Soldier. Soldier. Brain broke. Hey, so, and then it's going to do our Vulkan shaders. And here we go. If you pay attention up to the top, we've got our frames per second. We've got our GPU and CPU usage. Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and click play, start a new game, survival. But let's pay attention to those, that FPS, the CPU usage, kind of your frame time, going through nice and solid, having a nice stable game. Press any button, unknown world, entertainment, hold escape to skip. We're gonna go ahead and skip, and yeah, all right, exit pod. We're gonna climb the ladder and exit the pod here. So that's gonna be the pretty spot. Yeah. Look at that. Look at this wonderful oceanic world. And we're having pretty solid frame rates. Let's see.
The Aurora suffered orbital hull failure. Cause unknown. 0 human life
All right.
signs detected.
Oxygen, we're at 36. 33. This game's a lot of fun too. It's probably a better one to go with for testing because it's a little brighter, a little bit more going on in the game. But yeah, that's we're up and playing video games. Now remember, we're going to be going back and visiting operating systems as I have a little bit more time working with them. For those that we don't know, for ones that I'm familiar with, we're going to start doing some reviews and looking at those environments a little bit more in depth and the benefits, the positives and the negatives that they provide. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, give it a like. If you're not subscribed, do me a favor and subscribe. We're only at 57. 34% of viewers, I think, are not subscribed or are subscribed. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys down below. What's your favorite Linux distribution? Have I covered it? Should I cover it? If I haven't covered it, why do you like it? If I have covered it, why do you like it? We'll see you guys in the next one. Don't be afraid to dive into the rift.